We're live, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, good evening, members and everyone else. Welcome to the Adults Health and Social Scrutiny Care Board on the 21st of March 2024. This is our last meeting of the municipal year. So just a few comments, really. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their support over the last year as chairing this meeting. It's been some great questions, some great scrutiny work taking place. I'd like to make a special tribute to Mike Lodge this evening, who has been very supportive as a senior support officer over the years. He's decided wrongly, in my opinion, my humble opinion, but he's decided to take early retirement. So I'd like to wish Mike all the very, very best and just say, from everyone's point of view, a massive thanks for all the support you've given us in the past. So thank you, Mike. Just a few other comments before I get on with the rest of the meeting. Councillor Anne Kingston, you'll be mayor next year, so I'm sure that you'll have other exciting duties to carry out. So good luck with the mayorship next year. It is an exciting role. You'll thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm sure you're just made for it. And finally, Councillor Tina Benton. Thank you, Tina, for being on this scrutiny. It's sad as a ward colleague that you've decided not to re-stand. But I'm sure we've built up a great friendship, and that will continue. So I appreciate your input on these meetings. So I will get on with the official business. My apologies, but it is really important. Really important. Little things are really important, and it's really worth noting. So it's a great support. So item number 1 is substitutes nominated for this meeting and apologies for absence. I've got no substitutes and no apologies for absence this evening. Item number 2 is members' interest, to remind members to declare their interest at the relevant time. We can do it now. Item number 3 is admissions to the public. It's not recommended that the public be excluded from watching on YouTube. So anyone watching out there, you're most welcome to listen to our one of the best scrutiny meetings in the borough. So welcome anyone out there. And item number 4 is minutes of the Adults Health and Social Care Scrutiny meeting held on the 22nd of February 2024. I move those as a correct record. Can I have a seconder for those?
Morning, Chair.
Okay, superb. All those in favour? Yeah, okay, that's great. Perfect, excellent. Okay, item number 5 is deputations, an opportunity for members of the public to deputise and provide a statement. That we have no deputations this evening. So we go on to the main item of the agenda, which is item number 6, which is the Adult Services and Wellbeing Transformation Plan. So welcome, Kath, welcome, Anne, and welcome, Jill, for coming back and being brave enough to come back to present the reports and equally have some of our questioning, of course, as your critical friends, as you can imagine. So over to Kath to start with. We've had the general report. Do you have anything to add to that before we start?
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Councillor Blackburn. Not really. I mean, I'm taking it as read, and you will have got the quite detailed transformation plan as requested last time. Apologies for my absence last time. I know you will have noted my apologies, but I was unable to attend. So so really, I suppose by way of introduction, this is the background and context to the transformation plan. Is that we are taking a proactive approach to service improvement, service development. There's a long tradition in adult social care of sector-led improvement. So, it is something that we do on a continuous basis, continuous learning and improvement. So that's the background to it. We're also preparing for CQC inspection at the moment, and so the quality improvements and service improvement that we're doing and the transformation will really is really helping us in the preparation for that as well. So we've outlined that those kind of key elements and the drivers behind the transformation. And I hope it's a bit clearer now what it is that we're trying to do. So those key strands of transformation activity that are detailed in the plan, just briefly, are the procurement and implementation of the new case management system, the redesign and improvement around the front door, as we call it, to gateway to care, to make sure that we've got our services are accessible, and finance and charging, that we've done a lot of work on, strengths-based practice and community-led support, and a day service offer. These areas of transformation are all kind of interlinked, and I think you asked last time, so what's the problem that we're trying to fix? So what one is that, we're making sure that our services are the best that they can be, but also to manage, we have seen an increased level and complexity of needs since the COVID pandemic, making the best and most effective use of our resources in terms of finance, people and services. Since COVID, I think every local authority is in the same boat, that we've seen increased waiting times and waiting lists, again, because of that complexity of need and increased demand. So we need the best systems and the most effective systems to make sure we reduce those waiting lists wherever we can, and overall really achieving the best outcomes for Calderdale residents. So I'll pause there, take it as read, and happy to take any questions between the three of us, if that's okay.
Yeah, and of course, Anne, do you have anything to add, or Jill, do you have anything to add to that from your perspective?
Not from myself, Councillor Blackburn. I think the report, we've done as best to make the report self-explanatory, and to allow more time for questions with people having chance to have read beforehand.
Okay, so I'm going to thank you as well, Anne. Yeah. So I'll open it to questions in that case. I'm looking around the room. Normally, everyone has a hand up at this time, and nobody's making it. Right. Okay. Mike, I'll let. Sorry, Councillor Barnes first. I'll let you start the show off. So, Councillor Barnes, you just on mute.
Because somebody sent me an email, and it covered up my mute button. So sorry about that.
It's okay, yeah, no,
I think, in a word, underwhelmed. I'm not sure this has added much more to what was presented the last time. In terms of we asked for a full detailed one. I'm not, as I said, I'm not sure. If we look at the Excel spreadsheet that we've been sent, I think that implies that almost seems to imply everything's been done and completed with. So, I'm just finding. I don't know whether there's something we should know that we're not being told. Whether there's greater problems than we're being told about. I just don't know, and it's really disappointing that this is the second time this has been brought to scrutiny. That there's, in my view, and in conversations I've had with other councillors, insufficient meat on the bones on this. And I go back to the meeting that Howard and I had with yourselves in late last year. I'm not sure I'm that much further forward from that meeting in November to where we are today. So it's not a question as such. It's just, I suppose, disappointment. I suppose the one question is, when's this going to be sent to Cabinet? When are Cabinet going to be looking at this? And maybe they'll get the meat on the bones. But I think as scrutiny, and we've asked this question now a couple of occasions, we're still not seeing, I think, a real transformation plan, other than some really nice statements and dates, and a high level Excel spreadsheet which seems to imply everything's hunky dory. That's my comment, Chair, and the question will be the Cabinet one.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burn. Kath, do you want to come back on that to start with?
Yeah, so thanks, Councillor Barnes and Barbara. I mean, I'm really sorry that you've got that level of disappointment. I thought, you know, what we have tried to do is address, you know, previous concerns and questions around what it is that we're doing, the problems that we're trying to fix, which I think we've outlined the reasons why in the context in terms of CQC and the transformation plan. I think we've tried to make it as detailed as possible, although it's high level, and we certainly aren't trying to conceal anything or you know, kind of keep anything from scrutiny. Quite the opposite, really. We really welcome your scrutiny and constructive criticism. So I'm not sure what you mean by the meat on the bones. You know, we do have separate performance, which operational performance, and that might be helpful for you to see as well. But in terms of the plans and the transformation,
sorry, Cass, you asked a question there. Can I come in here? So, for example, let's look at the Better Care Fund. Okay, which in here it says Better Care Fund presented and agreed for better care funding. Okay, so is it going to fund consultants to support this work? How much will be spent on consultants? My understanding is the Better Care Fund actually falls under the remit of the Health and Wellbeing Board. Is the Health and Wellbeing Board being asked to sign this proposal off? I mean, those are just a very quick few thoughts on the process, and that's not in here. And we've asked questions on the Better Care Fund. I appreciate you weren't at the last meeting, and for good reason. There's not a criticism in any way, shape, or form. But we you know, the Better Care funding seems to be quite instrumental in this, and yet we don't know much about it.
So the governance of the Better Care Fund is through the Health and Wellbeing Board, and you know, the schemes under the Better Care Fund do go through that governance and assurance process. You know, we didn't include it in this because this is the high level transformation plan. But yeah, certainly we have got that funding from the Better Care Fund in partnership with our ICB colleagues. If you want me to send you the BCF schemes, then we can do that.
Well, yeah, because I think is it going to fund consultants? Is it what is it funding? What actually is it funding?
So that will fund the development partner that I think we've got in the plan, and I think that's clear.
Well, it just says secure funding for development partner.
Yeah,
procurement of a development partner. What actually is? Who is the development partner? What is the development partner? What are they doing? What are they planning? What are we looking for them to do? And why can that not be done in-house? Why is it being used? Why are we bringing in, one presumes, an external consultants to do something? That's the meat on the bones. Right.
Okay. So as it says in the plan, our plans around community-led support, that requires a development partner such as the National Development Team for Inclusion. So I thought we'd made that clear in the plan. What we have been more recently offered is this opportunity from the Local Government Association to work on the Getting Ready exercise with the National Development Team for Inclusion to see if we are, as a system, in good shape to do community-led support. We're waiting to confirm whether then there will be further funding for that offer. But in addition to that, if we're not lucky enough to be offered the first year of community-led support via that, excuse me, Local Government Association offer, then we have got that funding to go to procurement for a development partner, such as the National Development Team for Inclusion. So there are.
So where's that? So if we don't get the funding, where's the other funding coming from? That's already in the budget for the adults this year, is it?
No, that's the Better Care Fund. That's what we've agreed as a system, that we will pay for a development partner to come alongside. So we can't name any particular organisation yet because we haven't done the procurement yet. So the first step is that we're waiting to hear from the LGA to see if we've been successful for this first year of NDTI. If we're not, and we're hoping to hear within the next few weeks, if we're not successful with that, then we have got the agreed funding to go to procurement to procure a development partner. There are a small number of organisations similar to NDTI who do provide that kind of strengths-based community-led support.
I think I'm not sure I communicated that very well. So if we don't get the funding from the LGA, where is that other money coming from? Is that coming out of the adult social budget that council agreed?
No, as I've just said, it's coming from the Better Care Fund.
So if we get the funding from the LGA, where does the Better Care Fund money go?
So that we've identified that funding in the Better Care Fund. If we don't need to use it, we will go back. We have a monthly meeting about the Better Care Fund with our ICB colleagues, and we will renegotiate the use of that money. But it's not coming out of our base budget. It's coming from the Better Care Fund because we're committed to do this as a system with system partners. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think it does, yeah. That's my point. Okay, all right. I think there are a number of other hands up, so I'll come back to any other points I have at a later. Other councillors have a chat. I appreciate I've dominated so far, so I'll sit down for a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barnes, and thanks for raising that. I think it is coming from an outside perspective. I think you're living and breathing it, and that's we're not, and it just feels like, I can see Councillor Barnes's feelings in terms of actually we just don't feel there's enough. And we understand the challenges and everything on those lines. So we'll move on for the time being, because I think you've got the point. So let's Councillor Hutchinson, if you want to come next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have similar concerns that I really can't picture it clearly in my mind what it is this transformation plan is intending to achieve, other than ready yourselves for the service for a CQC inspection, which seems to be the main driver. There's nothing that tells me how the service users or the staff will, what difference it will make for them, how it will make things better for the service users. We spend a lot of time going on about co-production, but there's no evidence that you put forward to us to show how co-production has actually shaped this transformation plan, which I find very, very surprising. I do have some other detailed questions, but I would like to hear what you think this will actually do, how service users are going to notice a difference as a result of this, and also how they're being kept in the loop, how they're being kept informed of what's actually going on.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hutchinson. So just to be really, really clear, because this is really important, we are not doing this work just for the sake of CQC inspection. That's absolutely not the case. Every local authority will be subject to CQC inspection, but the work that we would be doing anyway. It is helping that, and actually, I think the CQC process is helping us with discipline around making sure that we look at people's experience, like you've said, that we look at performance, etc., in a very disciplined way. So I think that CQC framework is helping us with service improvement and focusing on which bits of the service need to be transformed. But that is certainly absolutely not the driver. We're really not doing that just because of CQC. I think that in terms of the co-production, so we've invested again through the Better Care Fund in a co-production and engagement lead officer, Hayley Parks, who started with us. She's been with us for a few months now and is working with, and I may want to come in and talk a bit more about this. But she's doing lots of engagement work with people, with local people who use services, different groups, the voluntary sector, etc. And she is including and involving and co-producing a co-production strategy and has started a new group called Calderdale Voice as well. So could I just bring you in there, Anne, is there anything you want to
Yeah,
add?
sure. Thank you. I'm just wanting to check, if I can, whether members of Scrutiny Committee have had the paper as well as the plan, because the narrative in the paper does outline and give further background and context for what is in the plan. So just checking that people are reading both of those things, and the detail that is in the plan sets out the context of why we're doing what we're doing, and I think answers the question that you asked last time about what the problem is that we're trying to solve. The problem that we're trying to solve, I hope is clear in the narrative, and then backed up by the plan, is that we have got significant increased need since the COVID pandemic. We're not alone in that. That is a national and global reality, and I think we talked about that last time. We've got, I suppose, not quite happy with this language, but pent-up demand. So people who have been not coming forward for services, not coming forward for support for all of the period of the pandemic, who are now saying, actually, you know, not only do we need some support, but we're in trouble here, we're in crisis because we've not been able to come forward earlier. We've also got a national and local crisis in workforce, and I'm sure that won't be new to anybody on Scrutiny Committee. That's you know clearly documented in the press and elsewhere. People have had a very difficult time in social care through the pandemic. Many have elected to move into other professions and other sorts of employment. I have to say that we're doing incredibly well in Calderdale in bucking that trend. So we have reduced our agency staff. We've got some incredible successes in recruiting permanent people, inducting those people well. People want to come and work with us in Calderdale. The co-production question in particular, sorry, I'll just finish on the exam question, which was, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? We have had very significant waiting lists. We've had lots of people waiting for support. We've had people waiting for longer than we've ever seen in the past. People waiting for support, and again, that is not Calderdale. That is a national picture. The transformation plan that you're looking at now sits alongside, as I think we talked about last time, our general improvement plan, which is all the basics around making sure we've got the right governance in place, the right recruitment, induction and retention processes, the right support for our staff, etc. So the transformation areas that you're seeing are the areas of significant change alongside those improvement areas that are all about addressing the issues that we're seeing post-pandemic. So that's the point of what we're doing. The co-production element, I'm really proud of that. I think Kath will be really proud of that too, and Jill, that we've managed to, there aren't many authorities around the country who've managed to invest directly in having a co-production lead. It's becoming more common as people recognise the strength and the value of those roles. But we are really proud of the fact that we've invested in a co-production lead on a permanent basis. So this is not a temporary thing. Co-production is never a quick win. You have to spend significant time and effort and energy and have a great deal of humility in connecting with local groups, local organisations, individuals, being really open to listen to what people's concerns and worries are, how they want to be connected to us. That's not a fast thing. Everything that we're doing in the transformation plan around community-led support, day services review, that's all being co-produced. And I wonder whether some of your potentially some of Scrutiny's frustrations around some of this is that you would like to perhaps see speedier progress on these things. If we want to genuinely co-produce, and we do, we have to acknowledge that isn't a fast process. There are many things that we can't co-produce, things that are laid down in law. We don't have an option around that. So, you know, we need to crack on and do those things. But the ways in which we deliver those things, we can co-produce. So we're working really hard on all of those things. The work with community-led support, as Kath has said, again, we're really proud that we've been selected as one of only 3 local authorities who the LGA, the Local Government Association, and the National Development Team for Inclusion have decided we're really worthy of working with. We're waiting the report from the National Development Team for Inclusion. They've been with us on site for 2 weeks. They're writing the report now. I think we're in a very good position. A lot of the groundwork that Kath and Jill and Sean and others have done over the past few years to get partnerships, get our partners really on board with all of these things, put the legwork into gaining the funding from the Better Care Fund and other funds to help us to deliver the changes that we want to make. We've got a great platform to deliver from. And again, as Kath has said, if there's further detail that you'd like to see, then we can provide that. And just to be clear again, I think we talked about this last time, that the Mosaic system has been through Cabinet. The Day Services Review has been through Cabinet. So these things have been through the right channels, and the Health and Wellbeing Board has been involved in a number of things. So I hope I'm not sounding defensive, but I hope I'm sounding, more, passionate about these are really important things that we're working very hard to deliver and to achieve. And we're working not just with co-producing with our residents, but we're co-producing with our staff. Our staff are our absolutely most important asset, and we are taking our time to support our staff to help us to develop the different ways of working so that we're working in this very strength-based way. And that's all been designed by our staff. If we deliver that top down, we can do it quickly. We won't do it well. If we deliver it, with our staff and design it with our staff, we will do it well, but we won't do it quickly. And that's the balance that we're treading.
I mean, it's good. It's good to hear that co-production is going on and that you're having these discussions. It's just it's not described at all in the report in front of us. So we have to take it we take it on trust that this is good, that this is going ahead, but it's not described in the report. Similarly, there's nothing that you've told me just now that tells me what difference the care service users will notice from this transformation program.
I think Councillor Hutchinson, I think that right, at the risk of being controversial here, it would be, Kath might tell me off for this, but it's really important to talk about residents and people rather than service users, because the people that we're talking about who are supported by adult social care are not necessarily people who will use services. They're people who we are trying to work with to prevent the need to use services or delay the need to use services. So if we can broaden that description out, I think that might help us. So it's all of our residents. And it's very much about thinking about prevention and early intervention with people. Some of the things that I hope I've talked about around waiting for contact with us, that is hugely impactful on our residents. So if you think about what's in the transformation plan around information, the website, access to the community directory, these are hugely impactful things for people. If we don't know, if our residents don't know where to seek guidance, advice, information, support, that will inevitably lead to negative outcomes for people. If we're making it as easy as possible for people to find out what's available in their own communities, what's available in the event that they are in crisis and that they do need to find their way to a service, these are very impactful things. If we're helping people not to sit on a waiting list, not to be transferred between different parts of the service. So wait for one thing, then wait for another thing. These are hugely impactful things for people, for our residents. So if we can help people to connect into their communities easily, quickly, not necessarily coming through adult social care, but to use the online offer that we have, that makes a huge difference. I was speaking to somebody who isn't using adult social care last night, you know, the mother of a friend of mine who lives locally, who's moved to the area, who accidentally got in touch with the Hebden Bridge Aging Well group yesterday or the day before, and was absolutely astonished at the amount of information, guidance, advice, the welcome and the access to information about things that she could connect to. This is an older woman. These are very impactful things for people, aren't they? And if when people do come into contact with us, if we can have those conversations with people that are about shaping their own, designing their own, whether it's a service or not. And co-production is also that micro level, isn't it? That when somebody is looking for some support, that we're not imposing on people, this is a one-size-fits-all approach, this is what we can offer you, but really co-designing with people what will be the best possible support for them. That's co-production too, on a micro level.
You and for that, it is really helpful, and it's really helpful for you to explain these things, because it's what, yeah, and it does sound. I know you're defending what you're doing, but actually we want to know, we want to be involved, we want to be part of that journey, and we you know, and I can sort of tell from members we're just missing bits and pieces, and it's the little bits and pieces that are actually the key sometimes. That, well, actually you are doing this, so you know, and that's what we really want to see. I'll bring some other people in first of all, if that's okay. So, Councillor Ridwan, please. Your video's not on, but we can hear you, I think, Councillor Ridwan, if you want to. Okay, I can come back to you if you're having difficulties. I'll come back to you, Councillor Ridwan, if that's okay. So just put your hand up when you're ready, and I'll bring you back in. So, Councillor Pillai, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate what's being said so far, and in addition to the meeting at the last time. Now, the confusions that arose was from the plan and the document that was together, which should have been read. But having said that, what I've now picked up today is that basically, from my perspective, what I'm looking for is what are the demands. We talk about all of our residents, yes, and I'm looking at the whole of Calderdale. Sitting on another board elsewhere, all organizations have got risks. I would have thought Calderdale is no exception. And that's what my question was at the last time. Can the indicators be identified as where the risks fall to the organization, or i.e. Calderdale Council? And we as elected members need to be very clear of the risks that the organization is sitting on. Having said that, you also did say that the staff and you all are working with a lot of demands and waiting lists. And what are the pent-up demands that we are not fulfilling in this borough? And how long is that going to take? Probably some of you don't know my background. I'm coming from many a year involved with Calderdale Council in one shape or form. We have always had risks in this council. We've always had demands not fulfilled. And I want to know where we are in 2024. And are we still going to carry on like this for the next 25 years? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pillai. Kath, do you want to come back in on that?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Pillai. Like I began to say to Councillor Barnes, I think we have, you know, in business as usual, we have our operational performance framework. We have indicators through the adult social care outcomes framework. We have a whole, you know, a kind of whole framework of governance and assurance around our day-to-day business. That's not what we were asked to provide here. And if that would be helpful to provide in terms of, knowing our our day-to-day business as usual risk. We have got risk register. We are held to account through the performance framework, etc. We can certainly provide that, and that might help, kind of fill in the gaps. Actually, is that helpful?
Yeah, no, I think that would be equally quite helpful as well. Councillor River, you've had technical issues, so hopefully you're back in and with us.
Okay, is that better, Chair?
It's a lot better. We can hear you, we can see you, so absolutely spot on.
Right, that's great. Well, obviously there's a bit of the meeting I've missed, but I did support things that have been said earlier, that on the detail we've got, it's quite hard to effectively scrutinise and effectively, make the positive contribution we would want to as a scrutiny panel. I think it might be easiest if I give an example of some work I'm doing as part of a scrutiny review, and that might also possibly give maybe suggestions a way forward. I'm particularly looking at section 4.3, where it refers to transition. And what we have here is transition pathways from children to adults did not always work well. Well, I'm sort of being involved in a transition review, and a lot of people we've talked to said, well, it's rather more than not working well. It's like falling off a cliff edge. And there are some probably fairly specific things in terms of different experience of people maybe with physical disabilities, transition from children to adults, perhaps those with mental health issues, learning difficulties or neurodiversity, and probably generally the physical disability pathway works better, but from the others it often really isn't working at all, and we don't always know what happens to those young people who perhaps don't meet the criteria for services in adult services. Now, it might be that without a massive injection of resources, it's going to be very hard to fix this, but we're never going to fix anything until we know actually what's happening. And then at least, we can maybe make a start on addressing those things. And it would seem to me there will be other things here where I don't have the detailed knowledge that I've had through the scrutiny review, where scrutiny could act as a critical friend and make a positive contribution. And we could bridge that sort of gap, which is always, I think there's always that concern when we don't have that detail is what I'm seeing here in the top level, reflecting what people who are receiving the services actually seeing, and there's always a risk that they doesn't, and we have sort of two parallel in universe almost. So I think my suggestion would be, question is how would say, for example, the scrutiny work done on transition and any other detailed scrutiny feed into the transformation plan, and is there some sort of recommendation we could have looking at how the transformation plan could be transformed by some detailed scrutiny? Wouldn't be able to do that on everything, but there might be other areas also where that sort of scrutiny review could inform the transformation plan.
Thank you, Councillor. That's actually quite helpful. I think, Kathy, you're going to hopefully translate that as well.
Yeah.
Everything into translations. So thank you, Councillor River.
Yes, thanks, Councillor River. So I think just on that 4.3 in the report, that was just to give a flavour of some of the themes that were coming out of the pilot sites that have been inspected by CQC as a pilot. And that's been really helpful. Again, not just for CQC purposes, but in terms of sector-led improvement. The more that we're having this discussion, the more that I'm feeling that I think we've been asked to provide information on our high-level transformation plans, and that's what we're doing. But actually, you're wanting to get under the skin of it, and actually our performance and business around transitions, for example, which we can certainly provide that kind of information as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kath. I think that's equal would be actually.
Could I just very, very quickly come back? I don't think it's so much the detail as the process and how these things feed into each other. You know, not just what is happening transition now, but how can other areas of detailed scrutiny feed into this? You know, and how can we part of the process of making the transformational work better?
Thanks, Councillor Buffon. That's most helpful. Councillor Pritchard, please.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem.
Right, I just wanted to look at a couple of points on the Excel spreadsheet. The Gateway to Care front door, Part 35, debt recovery. This has been ongoing since September 23, so we're 6 months into this. What is the current position? How successful has this review been so far? And has the outstanding debt been reduced? And then the second part of that is, have debt authorization levels or debt write-off authorization levels been decided?
Huge. Jill, is this one for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, brilliant. That's what I thought. Good.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Blackburn. In terms of actual debt figures, I would have to get those to you outside the meeting, Councillor Pritchard, and I'm happy to do that. In terms of the whole transformation work that's been taking place, really, which was driven through has been managed through an audit action plan. And we know that we've set ourselves an interim target for to expedite financial assessments. And I think I recently sent a response to members of Audit Committee to say that since the 1st of October, we were at 66% of our financial assessments being completed within 6 weeks of that within that 6-week target. I did actually advise at that time that this is a local key performance indicator that we've set ourselves, and there are a number of dependencies around that target that influence that, so we will have to keep monitor it on an ongoing basis. But we do know that we're making progress against that target and financial assessments timeliness. In terms of debt recovery authorisation levels, currently any debt write-off is being signed off at assistant director level. It's been chaired. There is a debt panel in process, which is chaired by myself. And fully reviews and considers all debt before sign off, and we do know that we've seen some recent improvements over the last finance report that we've seen in terms of income levels, but in terms of the actual numbers, I can forward those outside the meeting.
Okay, so in effect you're saying it is working, the review is working, and you are managing to pull in monies that are owed.
Yes, we are seeing some improvements. It's early days, and we are still trying to consolidate the team and bring in additional. We have additional posts, an additional team leader post, so that we've got improved manager oversight, scrutiny, and review of that. But we're still in recruitment processes there. But we are seeing improvements in response to the audit action plan and the steps that we've taken across the whole of financial assessments, charging, and debt recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And do you want to come back in on that as well?
Yeah, just thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn and Jill. So there are a couple of processes. The process that Jill has just described, clearly through the debt panel, but there are also processes through, say, the complaints process, which we investigate either in operations or in commissioning and quality, depending on the nature of the complaint. And we will make decisions through those complaint processes, which again, as Jill has said, are signed off at assistant director level. So on occasion where we're clear that mistakes have been made or information hasn't been clear enough, we will agree not whole debt write-off, that happens through the the debt panel, as Jill has described, but we may on occasion agree. They're quite detailed investigations, they're quite complicated often, but we may agree small or medium amounts of debt write-off through that process, and also through the local government ombudsman arrangements. We might agree debt arrangements there, but we are, Councillor Prashad, we are very definitely gripping the detail of those errors and trying to address them early so that we're not building up larger amounts of debt. So there's the work that Jill has described, and then there's the work on an ongoing basis to try and nip these problems in the bud at as an earlier stage as possible, so that individual residents and families aren't being compromised, and that the local authority is also not being compromised.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to bring Councillor Kingston in before bringing you back in, Councillor Barnes.
Thank you very much. I want to ask about, I don't know if this is correct pronunciation, is it Vera or Vira, this virtual assistant that is mentioned? Just rang some alarm bells for me. I'm concerned we're not entering into a situation where people who are wanting to access advice and information are just being constantly directed to online tools instead of to people.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Anyone would, Kath?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Kingston. So yes, absolutely not. I think what we're trying to do is develop a range of options for people. You know, so people who are more digitally able than others. You know, so that we've got those options. But certainly we are very, I think, very aware of digital exclusion, and we won't allow that to happen. So I think people do need a range of options. Is Jill or Anne, do you want to add anything?
Just as you said, Kath, we're looking at a really broad range of ways of engaging with people, including with people who either don't read or don't speak English. You know, offering an online option that doesn't have for people who don't read or speak English is a non-starter. So we're really conscious of having a very clear eye to everybody, the differing needs of all of our residents. And so some of our information and work can only be done face to face, and sometimes only with a translator. And for people who do read and speak English, still can only be done face to face. So and that goes back to some of our co-production discussion earlier on, that we're being really incredibly well informed by the work that Hayley is doing as a co-production lead about the ways in which people can and do access information, and the ways in which they can be excluded that, you know, we perhaps don't always know. So having that very localized set of conversations and engagement with people tells us, it gives us such a rich set of information about some people can access in this way, some people cannot, and we're taking all sorts of steps to maximize the digital and online options that there are, because so many people can and do access that information in that way, but never forgetting the people who don't, just as you've said, Kath.
And I think it's greyed out currently in the transformation plan line because it's on pause on hold for those reasons that Anne's just outlined.
Okay, thank you very much. And then just because I was initially going to ask about co-production, and I put my hand down because Colin was, of course, there before me. But just to say that I would have been more assured that co-production was taking place if the plan had included things about saying what parts of the plan, what bits of the plan were in, because we've been asked for this by residents, or this is what people are telling us they want to have. Just to be able to see that it is genuinely being designed by people that are using these services, and not just because of directives coming down from above. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in danger of going through a large number of this line by line and asking serious questions now, and I did my general thing. I think it was lost in my earlier, we'll call it rant, and some of you might be deleting the quotation marks at that point. But I did ask about cabinet. So let's have a look at the general improvement plan, which we did raise up in the last meeting. And it was at the last meeting, was specifically said it wasn't going. So what are the metrics around? Is there going to be a dashboard? When are we going to see visibility of the general improvement plan? Because the general improvement plans would seem to me, under its name, be the thing that underpins all this, because it's the general improvement plan. When can we see it? And when will the important work be actually signed off by Cabinet and therefore have full public visibility? Because we're now in the second meeting about this and we still haven't seen the general improvement plan. So before I go into individual line by lines, can somebody come back to me on that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Barnes. So yeah, we can definitely share that general improvement plan with you. You know, we can do that alongside the transformation plan. In terms of cabinet, I'm not sure that is a cabinet decision. You know, the improvement plans that we're doing, that, like I've described before, we are scrutinised under ops performance framework, the assurance boards, etc. I don't think it's yeah, I'll stand corrected, but wasn't clear that was a cabinet decision. You know, the day services paper, for example, has been to cabinet. The mosaic and case system management paper has been to cabinet. So I'm not sure that a general improvement plan would need to go to cabinet.
Well, I'd probably beg to differ, because what Cabinet seem to be seeing is piecemeal. They're not seeing the whole picture, and neither really are we. So Cabinet have been asked to consider various items piecemeal, not in full assessment of the big picture. And I just wonder whether or not that's an error in that, you know, that they need to understand. If this is a major transformation plan, and transformation plans normally are major, I am surprised that this has not been taken to Cabinet for them to have an understanding, even if it's conceptually, of where the journey is over the next 2 years, including, you know, the mosaic thing. And I don't mean to say to authorise the spending of mosaic, but to understand the journey that adults, which is one of the biggest portions of our budget, not for them to understand the whole journey that we're going through. Because if I remember rightly, Councillor Dacre was very clear at Scrutiny budget meeting that one of the aims of the transformation plan was to ensure that we didn't go over budget in the future years. And she was very clear on that. And yet Cabinet don't seem to be involved in what is a major change to the way in which we deliver social care within the borough. It might not have the need to go to Cabinet in terms of constitutional approval, but I struggle to understand why this isn't going to Cabinet even as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so I think what I should have said as well, that this does form part of the developing corporate transformation programme as well. So of course Cabinet will be cited on that. What I was saying was I don't think this plan on its own requires Cabinet's approval, but it does form part of the kind of corporate transformation plan and developments.
Thank you, Gav. I mean, one power we do have, Councillor Barnes, is to bring our Cabinet portfolio member to scrutiny and question him in relation to what his understanding is, or in the future, his or hers understanding of what the transformation programme actually involves. So I think there's an element of something moving forward there. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, thanks. Going back briefly to what Councillor Riveron was saying about the problems that we've known about for a long time in the transition between young people's and adults' care services. Given that the Mosaic system will have both children's and adults' records and case management system, what contribution will Mosaic of its own make to better management of this transitional process?
If I take that, Councillor Hutchinson. So we're obviously in the very early stages of the configuration. We've just gone live with the workshops where we're working through a whole sequence of the kind of pathway from entry of services right through to exit. What the Mosaic will do is ensure that obviously children and adults records are all on one system. So the kind of family details, the person's details will all be accessible on one system, which will avoid issues of information getting lost between two systems. But we already have processes in place around the placements of children and young people who are progressing into adulthood. And as part of the preparation for the Mosaic system, which is obviously the case management record, the social care case record, what we will actually have is some standard operating procedures. So a lot of the work we're doing in preparation for the system is setting out clear, consistent standard operating procedures as to how people progress, children, adults progress through the system to improve that consistency of practice. So the two go hand in hand. We will have much clearer records, but we will have much clearer processes and procedures and agreements between. We already have the meetings and infrastructure in place whereby adults service, we have an all-age disability service, for example, and we start planning that transition for young people at 16 through to adulthood. And also as part of our plans and preparation for those key documents I referred to in the report, that will include the policies and procedures, for example, in relation to adult transitions. And what we've tried to do in this report, whilst it's high level, is provide scrutiny with areas that they may wish to focus on for further scrutiny. So, for example, in terms of clarification of some of the underlying issues, there's reference in there to waiting lists, to performance, to quality of practice, to some consistent themes that CQC are finding that scrutiny may think is something worthy of bringing back to a future scrutiny.
Okay. That sounds, from what you're saying, it sounds as if it should make a significantly positive difference.
Yes.
Assuming that we've got the policies,
yeah,
and people working together in the right sort of way. But my other question was about the day service review, which was approved by Cabinet in 2020. So I know we've had a pandemic in between, but I'm just surprised in the report it said that we're just now identifying funding for this review 4 years later. And yet when I look on the spreadsheet, it says that the review is about to start and will be completed in 3 months' time. If I've read that correctly.
Shall I come in on that, Kath?
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Councillor Hutchinson. Yeah, The pandemic had as I'm sure everybody is more than aware, a massive impact on how we were able to, not just us, obviously nationally and globally, offer day services. Day services effectively shut down for a very long time because people who are using those day services were often the people on the clinically extremely vulnerable, the shielded list. I'm sure everybody will remember that. So there was a huge hiatus in any kind of possibility of doing an authentic, genuine review of what people really needed. The other thing that happened during the pandemic, again, as I'm sure everybody is well aware, is that really creative and innovative ways of supporting people who were not able to go back to buildings-based or community-based day services. Really some fantastic creative opportunities that were online for all sorts of things, for dance academies and exercise programs and all sorts of things. So what went to Cabinet in 2020 is a very, very different story to where we are now. There was also a significant capacity issue. What was agreed at Cabinet was that we would review day services. What wasn't discussed at that point was the extent of the resources that were going to be needed to do a really thorough review. We didn't know what we didn't know in 2020. We are, as I've said, in a very different world now. So what we've agreed to do is to deliver on the agreement from Cabinet in 2020 to conduct that review. The proposal that we're looking at, that we're talking about being delivered in a 3 to 4 month period from start to finish, is that initial review to get us into a position where we understand what it is we're reviewing now, because it's not the same as was described in 2020. That won't be the end of the story by any means, but it will get us into a position of a really clear stock take of our commission day services and our in-house services. Then we will be looking, I think, at a set of recommendations and a set of options for potential further review and implementation. So yeah, in a nutshell, what was agreed in 2020 is not what is needed now in 2024. We've reconsidered. We're going to put control the amount of spend that we put into that review now, so that we're looking at the current picture and presenting a set of options from that review.
I mean, I'm just interested in the timeline and as to where the opportunities for scrutinizing the review and any options or that are being considered to take forward. At what point is the most appropriate time for us to actually look at this?
I think that's a really good point, Councillor Hutchinson, because my next proposal is actually myself, Councillor Barnes, Kath, Anne and Jill go through the next stages and almost break it down in bite sizes to what we scrutinise, when we're scrutinising it, and have a more detailed review of each particular part, which would include the day services, I think. So I think that's and incorporate Councillor Ribbon's suggestion equally for previously. So Councillor Ribbon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll save me putting my hand. I say you're going to bring me in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's it, super. So I'm proposing that hopefully with Councillor Barnes's approval. I've just lost him. Where is it? Oh, he's there. He's in the bottom left. Yeah, no, super. So if we work forward, because I think we're getting there. And I'd say we always are your critical friend. We want to be more the critical friend to ensure that actually we all go along the journey all together, and actually we're united as as we're the front facing to the public, I guess, in so many different levels. So we want to be promoting what you're doing, and we get a better understanding. So I think if we set up a meeting prior to Mike Lodge leaving, then at least we have some time scales moving forward. What's coming to each meeting. I may not be chair at that stage. Who knows? I hope I am, but certainly moving forward. I think that's what I would like to propose. Moving from this, from where we've come from. you know, it's always, there's always got to be a starting point, and it's always hard to ask what we want to know and what we don't always know what we don't want to know, and all that sort of stuff. So you get the gist. So I think I very much thank you for your honest answers in relation to some of the questions raised tonight. You know, it is going to be on the agenda for quite some time until it is fully delivered. So thank you. I'm going to bring this item to a close. So we now go on to the work programme, which has been circulated. Mike, your last few minutes of fame as the work programme, or Libby even, as someone who's going to be fully taking over. Mike Lodge, please.
Well, Libby, I don't know if you've got anything you want to say particularly about the work programme.
Not particularly, just to say that members will be aware, and they had an email earlier, a couple of weeks ago, possibly now, to say that we have postponed an item that was due to be on for this evening's meeting, and the decision was made with the chair and the deputy chair that the timing for that item probably wasn't quite right, but we will absolutely work to get that on the work programme for early in the next municipal year. But yeah, apart from that, this is the last meeting of this year.
Thank you, Libby. That is most important. Councillor Hutchinson.
Regarding that item, Chair, I was just wondering, given that it arose because of concerns that were brought to us by members of the public, you know, the families of I'll use the term users of the service. Isn't it important that we hear back from the users?
Yeah, so Councillor Hutchinson, that's our intention. So actually, as you can imagine, at this moment, this week we're just going through Ramadan. It was inappropriate to actually bring them to this meeting tonight. But you quite right. Our intention is to actually to do exactly the same. You know, to have a meeting with them that actually they can. So it's something that we are fully aware of, but I very much appreciate a bit of a nudge there, because we are keen to ensure that actually that they have that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I just wanted to be sure that was
indeed. Super. Mike Lodge.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to. You mentioned me retiring at the beginning of the meeting, and I wanted to correct one error. I can understand why you might think it's early retirement because of my youthful good looks, but if anything, it's slightly delayed. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the members. It's been a privilege working with you. I've really enjoyed nearly all of it. I wouldn't say 100%, but nearly all of it. So thank you.
No, thank you, Mike Lodge. And I did purposely say early retirement because I was hoping you would reconsider your position and stay on a few extra years longer, because that would be.
Chair, can I just say something? I just want him to name names.
Names may be mentioned on the 12th of April, Councillor Barnes.
No, very much appreciate the hard work and a huge amount of work in the background that Mike and his team carry out to help us as scrutiny members. Probably not liked by the officers, because of course we then raise some very challenging questions. So with the information and the background information, but it is how we improve as a borough. I think that's where we're looking forward. So you know, certainly thank you, members, for your contribution throughout the whole year. I've thoroughly enjoyed being chair of this meeting throughout the last few years. I hope I can continue in the new municipal year, but who knows? Politics is an interesting game. So I'm going to end the meeting, close the meeting. So thank you very much for your attendance, not only today but throughout the whole year. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Jill, for attending and holding up. You're looking like you've actually thoroughly enjoyed the meeting.
No comments, but thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll ask Kath to name names as well. Okay.
We will indeed.
Just for a matter of even-handedness.
Yeah. No, it's good, super. So I'm going to say good evening to everyone, and have a nice evening and a nice weekend as well.